You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 131 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me, as always, is the journalist, writer, TV personality, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. How was your week?
It was good. It was busier, which I liked. We were talking about it before the show, but things are, I would not say even resemble normal, but stories are starting to transition back, or I'm able to kind of go back to the corruption stuff and less COVID stuff, which is what I feel like most people desperately need. So I'm a little bit excited about that.
Good.
What about you?
Fewer mass stories.
Yes.
To quote Rodney Dangerfield, well, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape. If anybody couldn't tell from the last show, my voice was a little weak. Last week I got diagnosed with gastritis, which is an inflammation of the stomach lining, which came to a head around Wednesday last week, right before we recorded, where I couldn't eat, couldn't hold anything down, couldn't drink, and apparently was passing blood. So I had an upper GI done, and so now, no alcohol, no spicy food, no caffeine, no sodas, no decaffeinated drinks apparently are bad for it also. So it's going to be boring for a little while.
The show or your life?
My life. I will tell you, chamomile tea sucks.
You don't like chamomile?
No, and it's even worse if you try to ice it. I just try to make myself some form of iced tea because I can't have leaf tea right now, so I'm getting these herbal teas, and I've got like 5 of them stacked up next to the Keurig right now, trying to find one that is the most palatable. Other than that, it's water. But it sure beats dying.
That is true, and I'm happy you're not.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, at least for the sake of the show.
Yeah, well, I certainly can't host it, so.
Oh, you can't bring Matt back to host. He can't read an outline.
Right.
I mean, I read it poorly, but he just can't read.
Poor Matt.
Poor Matt. It's not that he can't read the outline. He won't read the outline. Which is our first show together. Matt, what?
The outline.
Matt, what? The outline. Oh, I'm hosting.
Yes.
We do want to mention Big Daddy Unlimited, our sponsor for the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. Big Daddy is your source for guns, ammunition, gun parts, accessories. If you find a gun on Big Daddy, you have it shipped right to a federal firearms license dealer near you. Go fill out a 4473 and walk out with your gun. If you're wanting to buy an accessory, ships right to your door. You need a flashlight, you need a part for your AR-15, you need a flash hider, comes right to your door. Go ahead and snap it on your toy. They also have Class 3 items, silencers, SBRs, which is short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns. Those take a little more paperwork to get done, but they will ship them to a FFL in your area that can handle Class 3 items. And again, you do your paperwork, you send your stuff off to the ATF. When your stamp comes back, you walk out with your new toy. So big thanks to Big Daddy Unlimited, and make sure that when you join through the link on our page, and you can try your first month for less than $1.99.
And you had to make sure you use our link, our specific link, because every time you subscribe and for every month that you are a subscriber, you're supporting our show and our projects.
Absolutely. And we are very proud to have them as a partner of the show. Now, to shame them, let's go ahead and get into the show and give our opinions. Did you keep up with the National Convention at all, the DNC?
So, no. I mean, yes, I did, like, from a post evening roundup. Like I would look at news articles and things like that, but I didn't tune in. I think it was easier to avoid it this year just because like the Zoom concept is just not as entertaining as, you know, the in-person stuff of just watching behaviors and people watching and crowd scoping and all of that. But I was surprised and impressed with the Georgia representation. But did you see Stacey Abrams?
I didn't see it. I mean, I saw that she was involved in it.
Yeah, in the part about governors, no less.
You mean Governor Abrams?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Did you watch any of it, or did you?
No.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I won't watch the RNC either.
Right.
Even with our lack of entertainment options right now, I'm not watching that crap. It's self-aggrandizing. It just is not interesting to me. I think it's a bygone concept. It goes back to when we actually had conventions. We actually had candidates that were still viable going into a convention. We've known Joe Biden is the nominee for quite a while. Now we get to drop the presumptive off of it. That's really all that happened. Plus, the news was already broken that he was taking Officer Kamala Harris as his running mate. Hashtag Kamala's a cop. So there was really no news to break. Now, it would have been interesting. We were kind of talking before the show about our disdain for reality TV, but had he done like a Bachelor style with all these women of color on stage and giving them a rose each day of the convention, and it's like Stacey Abrams still in it, Kamala's still in it, and Liz Warren's still in it, and they're like holding onto the rose and they're like scheming with each other. Now that would be interesting. And then the final day, you give the final rose to Kamala, and she's your nominee. Now that is appointment television.
Yeah, it was just kind of much like ours, I say ours as if I'm a Republican, but but it much like on the incumbent side, there's nothing coming down the pipeline that's going to shock anybody. I think they just kind of rallied their side in to show unity, but there was nothing to it.
Right. There are no surprises. There's no shocks. It'd be like watching the Super Bowl after it's already been played, and then getting excited at the end when your team wins, or getting upset again when your team loses. I mean, it's already been done. Election night will be a little different, of course. Election night with mail-in ballots may go for a month. That's exciting to think about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not interesting to me, and I'm a political observer, and I've watched them in the past, but there's just nothing interesting. Even with the RNC, it's not like Trump's going to come out and give his vision for his second term. It's not like this is my platform for the second term. This is what we're going to do: more, better, different, or less. It's just going to be, I'm awesome, they suck. And just like this convention was, we're awesome, he sucks. And they dug up John Kasich and all those folks, and it just, I don't think it gins up the excitement. I don't even think it rallies the base like it used to.
Yeah. Do you think...
So...
No, well, hold on one second. Do you think it's possible to still rally the bases the way that you used to? Like, I mean, I know that Trump and Obama are kind of unique in how their diehard supporters are. But I feel like there's more people in the middle than ever, or just more apathetic people than ever. Not apathetic from the standpoint of they're not going to pay attention, but from the perspective of like, well, it's not my first pick, but this is what is on both sides. And I don't see that same rallying cry of like, I mean, we're hyper political, but it's not a true belief in the people like it used to be.
Well, I agree. Right now, especially from the Democrat side, I don't see it. I don't see Biden is not Obama. Obama was a brilliant speech reader. I think when he got off script, he was ineloquent, but he was a brilliant speech reader, and he was able to rally people. He's a good-looking guy, had a good-looking family, very charming. And you know what? Even to this day, even though we don't agree on politics, I'd grab a beer if I could ever drink again with Obama. He just has that charm. Clinton had the same charm. Some of that's worn off since then, but Bill, obviously not Hillary. I mean, I'd grab a beer with Bill. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of things to talk about with old Hills, but he had the same sort of charm to him that even though you didn't necessarily agree with him, damn it, you liked him.
Yeah.
So Biden doesn't have that. I really think he boxed himself in with Kamala Harris. I think it's incredibly insulting. We've talked about it before, even with what our own governor does, with what Kemp does, with saying, I want to appoint a minority or a woman. Is he boxes himself in. He also cheapens the appointment. So I think Biden really cheapened the appointment by saying, I am looking for a woman of color. Well, there's only so many people that qualify for that office. Now, there are obviously plenty of very smart, very well-educated, very qualified women of color, but at that level of notoriety that would bring people to a ticket, there were only a handful. And he really hemmed himself in. And I think it's kind of a slight to Harris to say, well, you were the best of what I had to pick from.
I think,
and of course,
well, it's kind of like Sarah Palin. Like in the you checked off these certain boxes and we narrowed down the list and you made the cut.
Yeah, McCain needed somebody who was further to the right than he had been, and he needed somebody young and he needed somebody attractive, and that's where Sarah Palin came in. And I'm not saying that this is new. Dan Quayle was probably the same thing, although Dan Quayle is a thoughtful, smart guy despite his potato problem. But he was young, he was attractive, he was well spoken. And he added to the Bush ticket in '88 to completely juxtapose Michael Dukakis, the little, troll that he was, and George Bush, who was an old guy. So this young, good-looking guy comes in and juxtaposes the ticket to do that. So that is nothing new, at least in the last 30 years. I don't think Harris adds anything. Because if anybody's really worried about issues, Harris used the crime bill that Biden stumped for to put nonviolent people in prison for simple drug crimes. And I put air quotes around crimes.
Right.
So if anybody actually digs in on Harris beyond her skin tone, realizes that, no, she can't scream for justice reform now. She sure as hell used it to her advantage when she was working her way up as a prosecutor. But can people actually evolve in their beliefs on that subject? And can you trust them if they say they did? But they're running for political office. Thank you. I have my moments. The district attorney in Dublin, Georgia, is under fire for comments he wrote several years ago, which we figure about 5 decades, in which he said black people have small brains, in addition to the derogatory remarks he made about people of the Jewish faith.
So this is Craig Fraser. And that judicial circuit, if people don't know where Dublin, Georgia is, it's Lawrence, Trutland, Twiggs, and Johnson County. If you go down 75 and get on 16, it's not far from there. So it's kind of rural. Well, 3 of the counties are super rural, and then one of them is a little bit more, certainly not metro, but a little bit. It's just a very diverse judicial circuit. But he's been elected since 2004. He's run unopposed every single time, and this is the first year that he had any type of opposition. And he had a primary opponent, I think maybe even 2 primary opponents, and it went to a runoff, and now he has an opponent in the general. He's a Republican. But so I say all that to say that he ran unopposed and everything, because his whole thing is this is just, people are just playing politics and digging up this information about me, and it's from so long ago, and I'm not the same person. Well, it may be true that he's not the same person, but the reason it hasn't come out is because nobody looked into what he's doing, because no one was doing opposition research. So I just wanted to preface with that part.
Well, let's kind of go into what he wrote. Wrote that black people have smaller brains than whites. In a newspaper published by George Ann at Georgia Southern.
Which is the school newspaper.
Right. Wow. Wrote that Adolf Hitler was an amazing leader by disinfecting the Western world of Jewish people.
He also called them the poison. Yeah, he said, when he was speaking of, he wrote the introduction of another book on some Hitler's documents, and he said, a man who inaugurated the final struggle of the white man, the Aryan, for mastery of the earth, one of those rare and remarkable personalities who appear but once in thousands of years to give despairing mankind a new symbol of hope and renewal. Even if one does not accept this estimate of Hitler, he must admit that Hitler did what no other man in our history has done. He devised, made, and carried out a white racial revolution from start to finish, from nothing to world empire. He attempted what no other man in history dared think of: disinfect the West, lance the communist abscess, and get rid of the Jewish poison.
Boy, he must be fun at cocktail parties.
I mean, even if you're going to publish documents on Hitler, like, that is a very bold position to take. And that's not all of it. I mean, we just read an excerpt of it, but I don't care what year it was, to take a position and say that the Jewish people of Jewish faith are poison, to put that in writing.
He also discounts completely the thousands and thousands of servicemen who died ridding the world of that madman. He worked for notorious church bomber KKK chapter president J.B. Stoner, which reported promoted by the Southern Poverty Law Center to create a file on Fraser.
So apparently in their opposition research, which I say opposition research because I'm assuming that this is coming from the other side, like maybe not necessarily the candidate, but people who are obviously not interested in having this man continue to be their district attorney, but they reached out to the Southern Poverty Law Center, and supposedly they did confirm that they started a file on him because J.B. Stoner went to prison for, I think, setting fire or bombing a church in Birmingham. Well, obviously, church bomber. But he went to prison for that, and so they had been watching him and his associates, and Fraser's one of the people that they had a file on.
And of course, Fraser says he doesn't hold the same beliefs now and is only coming out because of politics, like you said. Quote, the issue has only resurfaced because despite politicians will resort to desperate actions in order to win elections. It's no secret to this community that when I was a young man 34 years ago, this is last time I ran for office, it's now about 50 years ago, I said I wrote some things that were not politically correct. Thanks to the guidance of my family, members of my church, and members of my community, both black and white, I came to the realization that any type of racism has no place in my life and my community. My opponents have to dig back, again, this is 34 years, now 50, to when I was a teenager in an attempt to smear me, he told the Courier-Herald.
First of all, hold on. I have to interrupt you because I hate when people say that they're being smeared when people talk about things they did. He did do that, and he's admitting he wrote those things. He's just saying that's not who he is now. But you're not smearing people with facts.
Right. That's like getting in an argument with your wife. Like, why are you always bringing up old stuff? It's not like, don't attempt me to spear me. Like, that happened 25 years ago, baby. Leave me alone. He wasn't a teenager at the time, first of all. He was in his 20s. But that's, neither here nor there. Can people evolve in their beliefs? Absolutely. But there's typically a catalyst. And I think we talked on the show about there's a jazz musician who has, to his credit, changing the hearts of members of the KKK. And it started with a simple conversation. And it was a case where this man had never sat down and had a conversation with a person of color, that he feared what he didn't know. And eventually turned in, gave his robes to this black man, said, you've changed me. You're right. I was wrong. And he's done this several times, but there's a catalyst in that person's life. Not just after, again, he's hiding behind the church, which annoys the living out of me when politicians do that, is they immediately run back and hide behind the cross. And I'm not being disparaging of Christians. I'm saying that's a cowardly move. He doesn't say this is the catalyst in my life. When I got out of college and I got to know people, there's no turning point here. There's no climax to the story to where nothing else is the same afterwards. So it's just my views have changed after talking to my family and my church. What? That's not how views change. Views change because there's something that happens, a watershed moment in your life that gives you the epiphany, like, whoa, you know what? I was wrong. That wasn't right. I shouldn't. I was absolutely wrong. But it's not that he held these beliefs. He published these beliefs. He held them so strongly that he was willing to tie his name to newspaper articles, to a forward in a book. He was willing to tie his name to that.
Right.
This is not just somebody who never interacted with a person of color, never knew a Jewish person. This is somebody who was so convict in his beliefs that he praised Hitler. This is not Godwin's law, Matthew. This literally, he's praising Hitler.
Well, and that's prompted them to make the website NaziDistrictAttorney.com. And there's a Facebook page and a Twitter, and then they have a video on YouTube about it. And they I don't think they're going to let this go. The reason I heard about it is because I guess there was a small, not a protest, but kind of just like a little gathering outside the courthouse where they called for, just to try to draw attention to this. And they got it. I mean, there were some Middle Georgia news outlets there to hear them. And it was effective because before that, this had just kind of been on Facebook, not really picking up much traction, because who wants to be the one sharing the hyperlink NaziDistrictAttorney.com when none of us ever know if we'll ever, we don't know if we'll ever be in front of a district attorney. It's kind of like the sheriff. You don't want to be the one that speaks out against the incumbent sheriff. But I
can guarantee you, if I get accused of a crime and he's the district attorney, I'm wearing a yarmulke to court every day and have it thrown out. How can you prosecute? How can you operate a prosecutor's office when there are volumes of documents showing your prejudicial leanings? Not just leanings, hardcore beliefs. You were published with these things, and now you're prosecuting people of color and people of different faiths? How can that stand up?
I don't know. The only reason I think that it won't become an issue, truly, is because so many attorneys. There's not that many attorneys in our judicial circuits down here, first of all, and unless somebody has someone from Atlanta where they come in from outside and just blow stuff out of the water, the other attorneys are not going to take that kind of hit on a client when they're going to be back with the office on another case tomorrow.
Well, once you nail them on one, you have a roadmap to success. Once you make the case about the prosecutor, that's it. It's done. He's now ineffective. Now, I don't know how many cases he actually tries, and I don't know what his direct involvement is. I can tell you, Dick Donovan out here probably hasn't been in a courtroom, I don't know, since he became district attorney. And certainly now he can't try a case because his name is Mud. But, most district attorneys around the state try the bigger cases. So how do you do that? How do you prosecute a person of color? And this information's out there. I don't understand why an attorney who wants to win won't go there. Maybe I watched too much Perry Mason. Maybe it'd be thrown out that the prosecutor's not on trial here, counselor. But certainly it would be something to bring up at appeal.
You would think.
Or at least use it as fuel to have the case sent to a change of venue.
Well, and
obvious.
It's a fine line because, well, it's not a fine line because it's not, if you X him off your list as a potential candidate in this race, you're not doing it for racial reasons. You're not doing it because the other woman is black. This really has nothing to do with her, his opponent. And it really doesn't have anything to do with his race. It has to do with his beliefs that, and people have to decide if they think somebody, can change, and if over the last 50 years or whatever he's not said anything even remotely close to that or anything off color, no pun intended. But I don't know if people in this area, just because it is so similar to South Georgia, can understand that why this would compromise the integrity of the office as a whole, now that we know this.
Well, can people change? Absolutely. Absolutely, people change. Absolutely, people have a moment of clarity. We go, man, I was wrong. And it certainly takes time to do that. And we were talking about before the show, even with me. I had never met a openly gay person until I was in my professional life outside of the Army, because I grew up in the South, played football, went in the Army. You certainly couldn't be openly gay there. So I had preconceived conditions until I had honest conversations with gay dudes, and it wasn't necessarily it wasn't a hard evolution like this. It's not that I was authoring books about the gay scourge. Just I didn't have any experience. I just didn't know. I was completely ignorant about it. But the opinions changed. Was just people are people. So there is an evolution there that took maturing, and it took honest experience and honestly being able to have, I say honest, but earnest conversations with people with different viewpoints. Whether it's gay, straight, black, white, Republican, Democrat, libertarian versus the world, it's be able to have those in-person, true conversations with people that evolve your thinking. I don't know why these folks run for office. He's an attorney. He can make plenty of money. Why the hell does he want to be DA? He knows his past. Why in the hell would he do this? Ego?
I don't know.
It's the same question I had with Garrett Rolfe's stepmother, Melissa, was why if she knew why she was canned, why would she put herself out front?
Yeah.
Why would she expose herself to that? Why would she do that? And I think it's either a complete tone deafness in maybe this guy's case. Maybe she believed that no way the HR department would fight back against it. But I don't understand. You know the skeletons you have in your closet. You know they're there. And obviously this guy knows it's not going to be that damn hard to find. You were published. You're going to find something I said 30 years ago. It's going to be really damn hard to find. Because I wasn't published. I didn't write the foreword for a book. Plus, you look up Dave Roberts, you're going to find a bunch of articles about the manager of the LA Dodgers.
Lucky you.
So, a woman who had the cops called on her because she was wearing a thong at the beach wants to see city officials change the local ordinance.
I knew Dave would like this story.
I mean, you know. I mean, there's nothing I like more than a thong, other than not wearing a thong. It was caught on video, 20-minute ordeal, which has more than 1.6 million views. Police say they were called to Myrtle Beach over a report of two women dancing and soliciting videos on the beach while wearing thong bikinis, one in a see-through top. When officers arrived, Sam Panda tried to walk off, which led to them handcuffing her. She was later released without arrest. She also wasn't detained because of the thong, as some have reported.
Well, I think that's important. I think that's important to note. I mean, she wasn't arrested for having or detained for having a thong bathing suit on.
But it was used as a reason to initiate
absolutely
a contact.
And that's why someone called the police. Right.
Right. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of the law, what kind of Karen B sees a woman in a thong on the beach and thinks, I'm going to call the police? I mean, that's some next level not minding your own business.
I see people at the beach with skimpy bathing suits all the time. And, sometimes you might laugh because it's not, it might be too much, or you might laugh because of what they're doing in that bathing suit, and I'm talking about men and women, or like there's lots of, but I have never, my mind has never gone to, oh my God, someone call the cops.
Well, yeah, it's also like she probably shouldn't be wearing that, or wow, she really rocks that. But the question I also have with this is, would Karen have called the police if I was walking around in a banana hammock? Now, I guarantee you, I don't look good in a Speedo.
Well, and this woman is an acrobat.
Well, yeah.
So she's super fit, and that was part of the part of it is that she and her friend were dancing and making videos and stuff on the beach, and one of the tops was supposedly see-through, but they didn't put any pictures of that up, so I don't know to what degree that was, and that didn't seem to be the complaint. The complaint was the hiney.
Well, and here's the thing. I've been to the beaches, I won't say around the world, but a good portion. And I understand our hang-ups are different here. I mean, walking around the south of Spain, it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing for women to be walking around topless wearing a thong bikini. Some are better than others. Some you feel like, I felt like I owed a couple euro to. Like, do I owe you something for this? I mean, is this a show? I mean, am I supposed to pay for this? But there was no hang up about it. I'm not saying that we need to be more like Europe, but you're at the beach. Go to South Beach. South Beach is very revealing. I don't go to South Beach because I don't want to be in Miami, but it's amazing to me that this would solicit a call to the police. Look, if you're like, well, I've got small children, move down the damn beach. Do what everybody else does if they don't want to be next to somebody else at the beach. Move. I don't care if it's because her bikini's too skimpy. I don't care if it's because her armpits smell bad. You move down the beach. It's a public beach. It's just not a big enough deal. And as far as the officer's concerned, never should have initiated contact. Is her naughty bits are covered. Nothing I can do. If you want to respond to the call, say, look, her naughty bits are covered. There's nothing we can do. We're not going to initiate contact and bother her.
But that's not what happened.
Of course not. And
because it is in their code. It is in their code.
Well, yeah, and so many times police end up being arbiters. Like, would you mind just covering up a little bit? She's complaining, and that's not their role either. So the ordinance in Horror County, irony, in Myrtle Beach, thong bathing suits are considered indecent exposure and prohibited in public.
And I'm sure that came about. I'm sure that came about from, partying and the way that Myrtle Beach is. I mean, it's not. It can get a little rowdy out there.
I guarantee you see worse at the bike rallies when they're there.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I would say worse in so many ways. Not just smaller bathing suits, but worse bodies wearing them. Municipal Code for Myrtle Beach states that any person's intentional public exposure of specific anatomical parts in a state of dress or undress, including buttocks, is unlawful. They made mooning illegal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, the butt is nothing's funnier than hanging your butt out the window. I mean, that's especially as an adolescent. I mean, they made mooning illegal. At what point does that? It's absolutely unenforceable. You're going to put every plumber in jail. I've seen way more male ass cracks in my life than I have women.
Well, and
I work in a trade.
She's complaining, or not complaining, but her thing now is that she wants to have the ordinance changed. And so that's why she's continuing to draw attention to this. And she says that it's not, and we'll talk about that in a second, but she said that it's not clear, but Myrtle Beach says it's very clear. It doesn't, it's not vague, and it tells you which body parts may or may not be exposed. Which is interesting that, she said she wants it to be even more specific, like down to measurement. We need to be able to say, okay, if we're going to wear thongs, the strap on the thong needs to be 1 inch or 2 inches all the way around, or something measurable, something that's easily defined, something that people can say, okay, I know this is what I'm allowed to wear, and this is what I'm not allowed to wear.
Well, it goes back to the whole porn argument that Congress had, was what defines pornography from tasteful nudity, and the answer was, I can't tell you, but I know it when I see it. Mm-hmm. And that's a very hard standard to have to hold up in court. And the fact is, most people don't. It'd be a $50 fine, $100 fine. Most people just pay it and move on with their lives. They don't actually go to court to challenge it because it costs more to do that than it is just to pay the fine. And move on, or when the officers show up, tell you to put shorts on and bitch about it.
You think she'll get anywhere?
I don't think so. I think this will go away.
She says it's dehumanizing. I don't see it as dehumanizing.
Yeah, that's the quote I was going to get to. Is these types of laws, I think they're archaic, which they are. I think they're dehumanizing. That cheapens the word dehumanizing. I think they basically make people into objects, saying your body is something that other people can look at and say, that's right, or this is wrong. Well,
isn't that why you're wearing a thong?
yeah, your body is something that people look at, and that's just the way it is. I'm sorry if you put your naughty parts out, I'm looking. If I'm on the beach, I may have my sunglasses on and keep my head straight, but I'm looking. That's just, we're genetically predisposed to it. Let's stop pretending that your thong was there so that you had freedom of movement to do your contortionism or whatever you're doing, because yoga pants work just as well. Don't pretend that it's you only put that thong on. You didn't put it on for attention. You did. I'm not saying you don't have the right to, but you were wearing it because you put it on that morning and said, I look good in this. And then you went to the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate the argument when they say, well, it's people that are sexualizing the female form. No, it's a couple million years of evolution. But I do agree that if I wore something that's totally inappropriate, no one's calling the police. Unless, of course, they put that soluble thread and it comes apart in the water. And I have to come out of the water naked.
That was hysterical.
Look up dissolving bathing suit on YouTube. It is hilarious. We should probably put it on the page. It does have some salty language in it, but
it's not inappropriate viewing wise. It's just, I mean, it doesn't show anything. It's just a wife sends her husband into the water with a dissolving bathing suit and he doesn't know it. And it's just epic.
Yeah, and the fact that they're British makes it even better.
Yes.
So off on our own hog trail. Good job, Matlow.
Wearing off.
So I don't. It's not dehumanizing. I think it's stupid. I think it's a stupid thing to do. I think it's a ordinance that is disproportionately enforced, because I know damn well what goes on down there when they have Bike Week. And there's just no way to enforce that. So now that we've explored the thong issue from every possible angle, I want to remind everybody that these have been our opinions and not necessarily those of All on Georgia, and certainly not those of any All on Georgia not offering commentary on the show or our sponsor. Making teachers critical infrastructure employees would mean they're exempt from quarantine requirements and educators are losing their ever-loving minds.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. So part of the fourth round of classification from the Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Security Agency, nurses, police officers, and meat packers, this means they can keep working following COVID-19 exposure, provided they remain asymptomatic and additional precautions are implemented to protect them and the community, according to the CDC.
So basically, right now all we're hearing in the news is that, a kid tests positive, so they send the entire class home, and then they send the teachers home for 14 days, and then they bring them back, and we're not far enough in yet, but we don't know how many times teachers are going to have to be sent home every single time. So what they're trying to say is teachers would be critical infrastructure. Therefore, they would not have to go home for 14 days, and they can continue working. And they're saying that this would help in stopping the disruption of face-to-face learning.
Right. Forsyth, I guess Forsyth's already done so. Floyd County.
They did so as well, but they're actually going to reverse the decision because they just recently had to convert in-person to virtual because of their caseload, I guess. And I don't know why they're reversing, because it's not a mandate. It's just a classification. They could still send people home if they wanted to, and they could still do virtual. But Kemp's people are still kind of like testing the waters and weighing their options of doing this. And one of their lawyers was quoted in an article saying that, I guess he told the Floyd County school system that the teachers for right now should keep them under quarantine orders, to see unless the state goes ahead and offers like a statewide implementation of the federal guidance, which I am of the belief that teachers cannot just, I mean, if they were going to continue on with in-person learning, you wouldn't be able to quarantine and bring them back and quarantine and bring them back. It would just be too chaotic. But they're leaving this up to the local school systems right now in all the states that are considering this. And I do feel like they should wait for some state guidance from a liability standpoint, because, I mean, the teachers are going to sue.
Everybody's going to sue. Here's the deal. Like you said, if you have one kid that has COVID and he changes classes 3 times, and I think they've limited the number of times they change classes, 3 different teachers have been exposed. Not infected, exposed. So you can take those 3 teachers and put them out for 2 weeks. Then another kid comes in, has it, and now he's exposed to 6 teachers. They're exposed. They're out for 2 weeks. Look, I'm tired of the moaning for the teachers about everything. It is the critical infrastructure people, the folks like me, have been working since day one. I didn't take a day off because of COVID. The guy who was working your grocery store didn't take a damn day off. You know what? You complaining about your pay? You think you make less than the checkout girl at Publix? She's been exposed to thousands of different people every damn day. Because that store has to stay open because people have to eat. And
yes,
every day they have a different 1,000 people pass that register every damn day. The person bagging the groceries, the person putting the cans onto the shelf, your meat cutters, all those people are exposed every day. All your retail workers, your police officers, your firefighters, not to mention doctors, nurses, hospital personnel. And I'm not talking about the 6-figure physicians. I'm talking about the person that is working the front desk, that takes your temperature and tells you to go sit down and wait, and then puts you in for triage. That person is exposed to thousands of people a day. And all I ever get out of educators is either pissing and moaning about having poor pay, poor retirement, poor conditions. You know what? Quit. You're educated. Go find another job. If teaching children is such a damn burden, you act like it's digging a ditch every damn day. You act like you're flying into LZ X-ray, that it is so dangerous to walk into those walls every day that you just don't know if you can go on. Give me a break. Do your damn job. Or don't. Quit. You're not under contract. You don't have to buy your way out of quitting. You turn in your paperwork and go find another damn job. You're supposed to be educated. You're supposed to be smart. Go find something else you can do if this is so damn dangerous. No one's chaining you to that damn desk. Of all the government employees, the teachers are the loudest moaning. Firefighters go running into burning buildings, and they bitch less than somebody who has to work 7 months a year.
I don't think the Professional Association of Georgia Educators or the National Educators Association will be taking out any ads on the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. But I do agree with everything you've said. And I mean, you know, they were paid through everything previously. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been, but like they had a lot more warning of if they didn't want to do this, if they wanted to work for a school system that was virtual only, or if they wanted to take a different career path, or, I mean, they had a lot more time to adjust their lives than the rest of us did.
Not just that, it's no one, and you know what, and I say I didn't take any time off of COVID. You know what, I could quit too. I could fold up Dr. Cool and I could go work for somebody else. If I don't like what I do, I can go do something else. I don't know what I would do. Go be a firefighting astronaut or something. But I'm not obligated to work for anyone. You're not obligated to work for anyone. If all on Georgia just starts treating you like dirt, you can go somewhere else.
Right.
If Russ Spencer at Fox 5 just starts treating you like dirt every day, you don't have to go to work at Fox 5.
Right. I really do like Russ Spencer, though, so let's not use him as an example.
Please don't use Russ as an example.
Yeah.
He's really, really nice.
And he's really great. But no, you're totally right. I mean, and no one's forcing them to go. And I understand that people need money and that people need jobs. But like I said, teachers were given more. We knew some people could argue that they knew in March and April, but just depending on how you looked at the pandemic. But we knew months ago that we were not going to be out of this come fall, and we didn't know what school was going to look like. And, there's a lot more notice than everyone else got.
Look, I have a lot of sympathy for what's going on in the schools. I really do. And look, the frustration that comes from changing guidelines every 5 minutes. You need to wear a mask. You need not to wear a mask. It's hard to give instruction in masks because the students can't understand what I'm saying through a mask, particularly in the back of the room. I understand the frustration with any corporate job has this, with the changing goalposts constantly. I understand that. Look, if you're pissed about the administration of your school, if you're pissed about the school board, if you're upset at that every 5 minutes the administration is coming down and saying, well, we're going to need you to go ahead and put a hazmat suit on every day, or be prepared to put a hazmat suit on in 5 minutes should something happen. I understand those frustrations. Those are valid conversations to have about things that we need to change within our schools. But saying I don't want to be designated as critical because I'm special is not a valid argument. If you deem education as important, as critical to these children's lives, not only critical, it is in Georgia constitutionally guaranteed a quality of education, you are critical.
Well, and
I like it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Everybody, some of the posts that I've seen on social media from parents who are struggling with trying to make the virtual learning work as well. Everything is chaotic, and I think everybody is sympathetic to that. Nobody is blaming teachers for that type of chaos, and I understand that the teachers aren't saying we're getting blamed. They're talking about having to be, quote, forced to work under these conditions, but everyone is frustrated, and everyone's lives are changing and are operating differently right now. And I just think even when there aren't people who are classified like this, there are companies where people are not able to send employees home repeatedly after exposure, 14 days at a time, every single time, because it's costing them money. The City of Statesboro had a council meeting last week, and in it, they talked about how having to quarantine firefighters and police officers the way that they have, because even though they're on this list, they still have to abide by the state guidelines. So that's another reason the teachers are preemptively flipping out. But it has cost the City of Statesboro $120,000 in the last couple months trying to compensate and make up for shift changes and lost work and paying people while they're out because it's not technically from their sick leave and all of these things. It's an absolute disaster. And their lack of understanding for that too it's not a good look.
And look, I get the frustration. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that job if it paid well. Really, I as much as I love history, I'd be a great history teacher. I wouldn't do that job if it paid well, because it's a frustrating job. You're part of bureaucracy. Yeah, but that's the profession, and I get the frustration. But the same frustration if you work for any corporation, because this has been a fire drill the entire 8 months now. It's been a fire drill. Well, not quite. I guess it's 6. Of moving goalposts, of we're keeping these doors open because we need to lead from the front. This virus is no big deal, to shut the doors, never put on a mask, to wearing a shield. I mean, even going to my doctor's office, the GI folks I had to go see. The poor nurse is just dying in there because I saw her at the end of the day because they had to fit me in. And she's got a face shield on. She's got a mask on. She's sweating. Her mask is fogging as she's trying to talk to me. And it's frustrating because we're all frustrated by this. We're all frustrated by the situation. And I guarantee you everybody that works for any corporation is frustrated by the moving goalposts because we don't know what to do. We have no idea what to do, so it's a constant, CYA. These corporations are constantly covering their assets. Constantly. And that's what the whole game is about. The mask isn't about keeping anybody safe. It's about covering their assets so they don't get sued. So the corporation can say, look, we provided masks, we provided gloves, we provided hand sanitizer. We did everything that we could have done to prevent this. Don't sue us. And the same thing is happening with the schools, is they're trying to cover themselves and say, we've done everything possible to guarantee a safe in-class experience. And I get the frustration, but the losing your mind over getting a designation being critical, kiss my ass. It is tough to whine to somebody who's been considered critical since day one. So, closing thoughts, Jessica, now that I beat the hell out of the poor teachers.
Oh, no worries. Just wanted to mention our friend Jackie Johnson, Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney. She has had a really tough week. It came out, she hired, I don't think she meant for it to come out the way that it did, but she had to address it because she hired a private investigator that was going around and very aggressively interviewing people who had signed the petition for her third-party candidate opponent, Keith Higgins, and, was trying to dig up dirt on him and all this stuff. And so that came out, and coupled with all the people who had talked to him and who were saying, this person is basically tracking down voters, and some of them said they felt intimidated and things of that sort. But that's not all. There was also a letter penned to the State Bar Association of Georgia calling for Jackie and Waycross Judicial Circuit DA George Barnhill for both of them to sign, and 300 attorneys signed it.
Ooh, Jackie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that.
No.
You can't do
and
that.
Their calling for her to resign was not because of the private investigator. It's because of all of her reports of misconduct and conflict of interest and everything else. So the private
entirety of work.
Yeah, like her mere existence. But yeah, it's big.
All right, mine is off of your page. Mayor of Guyton, Russ what?
Dean.
Russ Dean swears in a new officer wearing drawstring pants. And he looks like a homeless guy. Now, I understand Guyton's a small town and everything else, but you could at least put big boy pants on. Something with a belt. Maybe a button down. But he's wearing like some wrinkled polo with drawstring pants. And this, like we were talking before the show, this is a big moment for this guy. And he's dressed appropriately. He's wearing a nice pressed shirt, nice pants. He looks sharp. He looks very proud to be swearing in. And there's this guy that looks like the caddy from Happy Gilmore. I know you don't get that reference, but it was Happy picked up a bum to be his caddy because he just picked somebody off the street. And he just looks slovenly, and it's embarrassing. Even little old Paulding County, for occasions like that, Dave Carmichael, our chairman, will put on a jacket and tie. He carries his wallet in his sock, but he'll put on a jacket and tie. But our commissioners are always at least decently dressed. Not the P&Z board, because Matt Lowe wears a T-shirt and has sunglasses on his head. But at least our commissioners dress appropriately for the occasion. And that's got to be an embarrassment for that city. So for Jessica Szilagyi, for Eric Cumby, our editor, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.